men being jealous of seeing another man having sex with their woman is not insecurity. It is a function of, it's an evolutionary adaptation.
Female and male infidelity is like so fascinating. There's actually a really good book on it, on female infidelity, which we have in our library, which I can't remember the name of it right now, but I think it's literally called Female Infidelity. But it's totally worth reading. It's a psych book. But what I love about it, and for everyone, like I just finished my master's actually, so I'm all about analyzing and studying this stuff because I think it's really important. One thing that I love about that book is it makes a very simple claim that I think will help every man and every woman on the planet understand why men have a different perception of infidelity than women. And it's because when a woman gives birth, she knows for a fact the baby is hers. Until the midwife takes it into another room and then hopefully you get yours back, right? But until that point, you know it's yours. The man never, ever knows. And I think, and I'm going to share a funny story because this is my absolute favorite. One of my very, very good friends, Steven, love this guy. Steven's blonde, like really blonde. And Eve is brunette and I'm dark haired. And Steve was looking for a place to stay. And when we first started dating, she needed a roommate. So I recommended they stay together. So they lived together for a few months, became really good roommates. Years later, me and Eve moved in. We ended up moving to Texas, and Steve wanted to come to Texas. So I was like, well, we have a spare room. You can stay in the spare room, and we need a nanny for our kids. And so we had kids with our other partner, and Steve moved in, and then I was traveling, moved into the house, into the spare room, to be the nanny, to be the kids' nanny. And I know there are a lot of guys that wouldn't be okay with a young, attractive male nanny, but like I didn't care. Like I knew Steve, we were good friends.
A manny?
A manny, yep, a manny. He actually hated that phrase. What did he say? He was the children's guardian was his phrase. He didn't like nanny. Yeah, he was the guardian.
My apologies.
That's okay. He needed a manly name. And one day, I was traveling a lot for work. Eve was pregnant. No, Eve wasn't pregnant. I was traveling a lot for work, and I came back, and Eve got pregnant. And as a joke, I said, I was like, well, mate, how do I know the baby's mine? You know, I don't know. And she goes, who am I going to sleep with? Steven? And I was like, you could be. That would be right. And I said, well, we'll know if the children come out blonde. Well,
I know where this is going.
We have two children, and both of them came out completely blonde and look exactly like Stephen. They don't look like me at all. No, in terms of color of hair, right? And obviously, we know there are DNA testing's a real thing. Not that was a question, but here's what I love about that story. It was Eve's response when the first son came out, it was blonde. She just looked at me straight away and goes, never in a million years, there is not enough money on this planet. And
that's like, not enough money and alcohol on this planet.
Yeah, not enough money and alcohol on this planet. And Steve was there when this happened, because we'd all be joking about it. It was funny to joke about it. And Steve was like, there must be enough money. But I love that because I remember that moment, and it didn't matter. Obviously, it's confirmed they are mine. Like we know.
They are mostly Russian.
And they're definitely Russian. Yeah, and that's the thing. So I'm half Ukrainian. My mom's blonde. My grandma's blonde. Eve's family's blonde, and that's just how genes work, right? It can happen. But there was an absolute moment where despite knowing everything, I was like, is it? Like, it happened. And Eve instantly crushed it, right? It was like, absolutely not. But what I love about that is a man can never, there's no way I can know until the DNA testing does. And even if the DNA testing says it's good, my instincts don't know, right? Your instincts have no clue. And so that feeling still rises up. Now, years and years of dating practice, of understanding the subject meant that I could easily overcome it and work it out and be cool with it. And it's not a problem, it's hysterical, and Steve's still one of my best friends. He's always coming out of the house when I'm not around. No, I'm joking, he's not having it. But the point is, why I love sharing it is, it does take a very confident guy to be in that situation. On the flip side, a woman doesn't have that fear or that risk. And even in a situation that's completely innocent, and we know our kids are ours, and there are genetic reasons, like I said. We had to get genetic testing. One of us, I want to go into it to make sure, because people online want to know. One of our children, not our children, but my child of another one has a genetic disorder, so we have to get our kids genetically tested. So it wasn't like, oh, are you cheating? I'm going to get a genetic test. We had to do it for medical reasons, right? So there was a reason, so I know my kids are mine. But it doesn't matter that the DNA says yes, that I'm understanding and that I've got it and everything's chill, there's still a part in your brain that's like, but maybe, right? And that's what guys deal with. And I think it'd be cool if more women could understand that that's the risk. When you're dealing with a jealous guy, to be like, well, you know, I'm a woman and you're a guy, and if I'm not jealous, you can't get jealous. It's like, yeah, but there is a very real biological instinctive problem. Yes.
Yeah, and I get that, but at the same time, I was dating a guy, and he got his ex-girlfriend pregnant while we were dating.
Right, but you also know he got his ex-girlfriend pregnant, and his ex-girlfriend
I know
wasn't
that,
aware,
I know that we know.
knew that it was his
but
or her baby.
It's, you know, I'm okay with I'm very open. I'm okay with my partner sleeping with multiple women, but with that, there's always a risk.
Sure.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
But the argument he's making goes back to evolutionary psychology.
I understand.
Yeah.
So 300 hominids are about 3 million years old. Before that was Australopithecus. Homo sapiens are about 300,000 years old. And in that 300,000 year period, there were several different periods where Homo sapiens went almost extinct. During those periods, the things that were passed along were the traits that aided in survival and replication. Any other external traits, like a lack of a fear of heights, a lack of fear of snakes, like you think sulfur smells good, things like that would normally poison most humans, those things did not get passed along, and the traits that helped with survival and replication did get passed on. So about 50,000 years ago, if you do not sit there and watch where your mate is all the time and she gets pregnant, you legitimately don't know it's yours. And the prospect of cuckoldry was high, which is why men being jealous of seeing another man having sex with their woman is not insecurity. It is a function of, it's an evolutionary adaptation. And so that's one of the issues that happened, because the men who were not vigilant over their women 50,000 years ago were raising other men's children. That is not, that we know that to be a fact. We also know that through DNA testing of the Y chromosome, 40% of men throughout history have replicated, 80% of women have replicated. So there's always been these surplus men that have been out there that have not had any chance, and those men may come in. That's why you would have to protect. That's why men have these protective qualities, especially when their wife is pregnant or when they're in a relationship with a woman. Also, you'll see this often when you have an older man and a much younger woman. He becomes very protective. It's called like a December-May relationship, something to that effect. For the other thing is, and this is where things get really ugly, and this is why evolutionary psychology is not widely accepted, and the reason why a lot of people have a problem with it is that women being attracted to other women may also be an evolutionary adaptation. When you consider if Genghis Khan comes and kills all the military-age males in your tribe, and the only thing you have is the choice of either dying or having sex with a new partner. This is also a theoretical adaptation for why women get over breakups much faster than men, is because they understood that there was another guy that came in there, and I have a choice. I either go with the new guy, I either go with Genghis Khan, or I end up dying. And the women that chose to go with the new leader, they ended up passing along their genes, and the ones that did not, and this trait would get passed down generation after generation, one tribe being conquered after another, until we get to the point where we are now. There were 1 billion Homo sapiens on the planet in 1900. There are 8 billion Homo sapiens on the planet now. So we figured out something. Before 1900, everything is a struggle. Before the year 1850, half of humans on the planet died before the age of 5. Life was brutal, and that is where we get our proclivities from. We do not get them from Facebook. We don't get them from culture, and we don't get them from anything that's happening today, anything political, anything we see on TV. We have 15 years of Facebook, and we have 300,000 years of evolution. So like what he's saying before, because we have this evolutionary problem of never knowing if the child is ours, men are always going to be more vigilant on which penises go inside of our partner than the other way around. And whenever we do the studies, the 37 culture study by David Buss, when they asked all 37 cultures, do men care more about women's body count? The answer is yes. Do women care more about men's body count? The answer is no. And furthermore, and by the way, they control for culture. These are Andes Indians, these are Papua New Guinea, this is all over the place. These are not Europeans. In all of them, they saw the same thing, the same exact thing, because men were more interested in a woman's low body count than women were interested in a man, and women actually thought it was weird when a man was in his mid-20s and was still a virgin. So that's the reason. You asked before if there's a double standard. There is a double standard, and the double standard has to do with biology and evolution.